Okay, so here we are with another Masters of the Universe Origins unboxing. You know I love opening Masters of the Universe Origins. This is the channel that Masters of the Universe Origins built. The first unboxing of an action figure I did on this channel was the original Masters of the Universe Origins He-Man. So this is Serpent Claw Man at Arms. You can see that this is the one where they've redesigned the trade dress to play up the Snake Men. And I don't know if this was a wise idea at all because honestly, I'm convinced that the Snake Men are cursed. Like, think about it. When the Snake Men premiered in the original vintage Masters Universe line, that's right about when the wheels fell off the wagon. And I'm not saying it's because of the Snake Men. There were a lot of factors that figured into it, and I honestly don't think the Snake Men was part of it. It was just a coincidence. But in the 2000X line, despite 2000X being a controversial term apparently, uh, uh, the Snake Men showed up, and they showed up right at the end of the line again. That's a happenstance. Then you had Master Universe Classics, and they had Snake Men in that. But just due to the nature of that line, I don't think that the Snake Men curse affected it too bad. So I think that's kind of an outlier. But then you have Masters Universe Origins, and while the line still seems to be doing pretty well, going pretty strong, hopefully will be continuing to go strong. You got the cartoon collection and a lot of other cool figures coming out soon, so I'm excited about that. But this wave was just the distribution on it, at least in my area, was horrible. And I only saw this wave like once, and when I did, they'd already sold out of Spikor and Squeeze, and all I saw left was one Serpent Claw Man at Arms and one Snakeman Infiltrator. So I was, and those didn't last too long. I didn't really have the money to pick them up at the time. But this guy I got for cheap off Amazon. I think he was only like $13, so that was a pretty good buy. We're gonna have some things to discuss about this figure, obviously. But here we got a picture on the back of Man at Arms with his serpent claw fighting against one of the Snake Men, and it looks kind of like Ratlore, but he's not colored the same as Ratlore, so I'm guessing this is a different character actually. But it says Man at Arms crafted the Serpent Claw as a snake capturing weapon to defend against the Snake Men. Yeah, they play the Snake Men up so hard, and like I said, I don't think that's a good strategy considering what we've seen from how the Snake Men affect the line in the past. But they didn't do this kind of stuff with the Horde. They just kind of like threw the Horde in with the regular E-Man characters, and like, oh, I think they got like a sticker on the front, maybe I don't remember. But it's a very nice piece of artwork, and we got the instructions: push Serpent Claw overhand, adjust position to capture enemies. Doesn't say twist or turn into battle positions like they often do, but whatever. All right, so let's go ahead and open them up. And one thing that I noticed about him immediately, and this is based on the 2000X figure. So a lot of the flaws in this figure are things that are carried over from the 2000X figure, and I think worked a lot better on the 2000X figure, at least as I remember it. They got sneaky and put this instruction booklet into the comic book. I don't think I've read this comic book, so I think I should probably go ahead and read it. So we got Man at Arms and a guard on their sky skiffs, their battle rams. And it says, across a rose desert, Men at Arms and the brave Eternian guard Otto find themselves on the unlikeliest assault. Prepare yourself, Otto. 1,000 leagues we've searched, and this time we will not miss its time trajectory. And then there's this glowing fortress here, and it says, at last, the fading fortress, the nexus that vanishes and then reappears across dimensions. The Snake Men have ambitions to hijack the fortress and bend the multiverse to their will. Into the breach! You see Man at Arms and the guard running into the breach. And it's a good thing that Man at Arms has a gunmetal breastplate in this story, in this figure, because then it's a little easier to tell them apart from the guard from the back. And then it says, establishing shot of Snake Mountain. But little do our heroes know that the Snake Men weren't the only villains with designs on the fading fortress, and Skeletor is observing in his crystal ball. Ha! The snake fools are in over their heads! Spikor, it's your lucky day! You get to prove your worth! Take me to the fortress! Yes, Skeletor! Back at the fading fortress, changes are afoot. The walkways are wholly unreliable. How will we ever manage to cross? Easy, just with a little foresight. And he shoots out the snake claw like a grappling hook, and a little innovation. You can navigate any obstacle. And then he helps the guard up, Otto. Skyward the heroes climbed until finally reaching the utmost heights of the fortress, a place that offered no respite, or is it respite? I always say respite. The heroes find themselves before a coil, the Queen Basilisk, highly intelligent, extremely deadly, and the mother of the Snake Men. So she's the mother of her Snake Men. I'm guessing that's how she named King Hiss. Like, oh, it's a boy. What are you going to call him? Well, okay, it's simple but effective. And then Squeeze shows up, or is it Squeeze? I'm not going to say that whole time. We're just going to say Squeeze. Squeeze. So you've been breeding King Hiss's army. So there he is. Okay. Such are the heights of ambition. Never mistake ambition for evil. Seize them. And then you see the horde trooper snake guys. Snake troopers, I think that's what the figure is called. You imbecile! I lured you here to be the Snake Men's slave. Your knowledge will be ours. Dream on! And then whack, he clobbers I missed a panel. There is no Otto, man-at-arms. So yeah, Otto got turned into a snake man. Navigational systems of the fortress. I will ensure this tower will never be used for evil again. I guess he reprogrammed it. Quickly, the fortress has set course for peril. And then you see it appearing again in outer space right above a black hole. Oblivion. And then Skeletor and Spikor in the whatever you call Skeletor's ship. I know they made a toy of it recently. Spikor, you nincompoop! The fortress is gone! We are too late! You failed me again! Sorry, boss. Well, Spikor didn't have nothing to do with that. Hell, Skeletor was the one driving. All right. So we got Man-at-Arms out of the package. And, of course, he's got these rubber tabs holding him prisoner. And then we can discuss this figure. All right, so like I said, the original Serpent Claw Man-at-Arms, Serpent Claw Man-at-Arms, that was a figure that was part of the 2000X line when they were hyping up the Snake Men, much like this one is. And, because of that, he didn't have the standard armor like we think of Man-at-Arms as having, like the original figure and the classics figure and this one have this kind of armor piece that kind of attaches very his forearm piece came off, attaches very firmly to his arm, and you can see that it's a different color from the forearm armor, which the way that the 2000X figure is sculpted, it actually makes a little more sense because the shoulder armor is like this big huge shoulder pad thing, and this is almost more like a wristband. So they don't look like they should be connected together anyway, but these do look like they should be connected together. So I think what they should have done, even with the shin armor, is with this one just made all the armor gunmetal gray. I think that would have looked really cool. And plus, to me, part of the appeal of this was like with it being gray armor, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Masters of the Universe movie, the live action one. So here we have Man at Arms Mace. Again, this is molded in gunmetal gray. And I'm going to set Man at Arms aside for just a minute so we can talk about the rest of the accessories. And the Serpent Claw. And the claw portion of the Serpent Claw is indeed removable. And it doesn't look like there is some articulation to it. So you can kind of move it around from side to side like that. Unfortunately, the claws don't move inward like as pincers. They just kind of move back and forth. So yeah, I got paint all over my hands. I was painting something earlier. So it doesn't look like it launches or anything like that, but it does remove from the launcher, so you can pretend to launch it. It would have been nice if they had to put like a little hole in there so you could tie a string through. But yeah, it's a pretty cool weapon. Even if you don't care about the snake men stuff, it's a nice little accoutrement for men at arms to have. So in the artwork on the back, they show putting the snake claw over the left arm, which means that I guess you'd have to take this part off. But like I said, I don't like the way that they don't match anyway. They should be the same color. And then we just kind of pop that on there. But you could pop it onto either arm, I suppose. I don't think it really matters. His thumb's getting kind of caught up in it, so I think I need to make sure that the thumb is lined up with the hole's kind of square. So if I make sure that his thumb goes into that corner, I think that ought to hold it in the best. So there we go with that. That's what he looks like with the snake claw on. And we'll go ahead and put the mace into his right hand. And then Man at Arms is ready to do battle with the Snake Men. And like I said, I think it would have worked better if they had made all this armor gunmetal gray. I get why they didn't with the 2000X, but it doesn't really translate very well into the more vintage style molding. Speaking of which, this is not the breastplate that came with the original Origins Man at Arms. This is actually the Lords of Power breastplate that they've recolored in gunmetal. So I might want to try to get another one of these and actually repaint it into that sort of cheddar cheese typical Man at Arms color, because I do really like the coloring of it. All the coloring on this guy is like just a little bit off from the original Man at Arms color palette. So you have a helmet that's like a darker blue than the original one. Doesn't have any of the orange yellow detailing painted into it. And then of course, you got gunmetal gray for the armor, which is a completely different color. But even the orangish yellow color, it's like just a little slightly more on the orange side, I think, than the original one. Not a whole lot, but like this would be a good Man at Arms color for an orange armor. Don't get me wrong. Captain Half Fun says, crazy. Looks like he got attacked by a snake man and started to turn. Nice mustache. Yeah, well, hopefully not for a while. One of the things that really bugged me in the Classics continuity, and for the most part, I actually like a lot of the Classics continuity, but I did not like the way that Man at Arms met his fate. And it wasn't so much that they killed off Man at Arms, because I don't mind if you kill off one of my favorite characters, as long as he goes out like a G. But it was that he had been, corrupted by the Snake Men, and there was no redemption for him. Like, I wouldn't have even minded if he'd been turned into a bad guy and been a bad guy for the remainder of the line, if at least he had have gotten his moment of redemption at the end. So I think that like it would have made the tragedy of the whole thing a lot more emotional. I think that's just my perspective on it. I could be wrong. So yeah, the brown on the figure is much more of a true brown than the sort of burgundy color that the original figure had. Captain Hatfonson, when that happened, no, it wasn't on the cartoon at all. It was in the Masters of the Universe Classics continuity, which didn't really have a whole lot of media to it. I think they had some mini comics. Are they in the mini comic book? Let me look at the mini comic book and see if they're in there. But I know that they. Oh, there's a nice Neil Adams piece. I just want to shut that off real quick. That was definitely 2000X. So there's some 2000X comics. Yeah, they got the more modern mini comics in here. So if you got this book, there's some of those mini comics I was talking about. But I don't remember if they actually. Yeah, here it is. So yeah, this is what happened. So Man at Arms got turned into a Snake Man, and he's evil, and he's fighting Clamp Champ, and Clamp Champ is forced to kill him in self defense. So and I didn't like that they did that to Clamp Champ either, because like that's something that's going to haunt him. He does start to turn back into a human as he dies though, and says, Tila, you do your mother and me so proud," and then he dies. So, but yeah, I would have liked for him to get another moment of redemption. I would have liked to seen him, you know, be Man at Arms at least one last time. Do something heroic. Captain Have Fun says, "Did you know the guy who voiced He-Man for 2002 also voiced Leonardo for the original Ninja Turtles?" Yeah, I did know that, and you can tell a lot with Prince Adam because Prince Adam is not too dissimilar from Leonardo, probably because they're both doing teenage voices, or he is doing a teenage voice in both versions. But He-Man, like I would, if I'd have just heard He-Man, I would not have been able to tell that that was Cam Clark. Like he just kind of transformed into He-Man. He did a great job. Captain Have Fun says, "Oh, the classics. I never opened any of mine. I wish I'd bought more. I feel stupid. Uh, I wish I'd bought more too, though. Neil Adams is awesome. Yes, he is. I have a Superman cover of his from 1969 in my studio. That's very cool. I love Neil Adams. He's one of my favorite artists of all time, especially in the comic book realm. But just in general, the guy was a great artist. Uh, yeah, the mini comic. There weren't a whole lot of mini comics and classics, and I think most of the mini comics and classics would have come with the subscription figure. I think that was how they did those. They didn't have a whole lot of budget for comics. So they only did a handful. But if you pick up this book, which is the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe mini comic collection, it does actually include those classics mini comics in this tome. So it's definitely worth picking up. It's all the vintage mini comics, and that's worth picking up alone. But then there are some of the later comics for like 2000X and New Adventures is in here. Which so there's all the Masters mini comics, all the Princess of Power mini comics, all the New Adventures mini comics. The last New Adventures mini comic had art that was really good. Bruce Timm did that, and he brings a very sort of Jack Kirby sort of flair to it. Like I know New Adventures is controversial, and it's certainly not my favorite version of He-Man, but if you look at it as just being kind of like an 80s sci-fi kind of thing with like some Silver Age elements to it, and it's Bruce Timm artwork, so that's awesome. He doesn't draw all of them. Errol McCarthy draws a bunch of them, which is unusual because Errol McCarthy, while he did a lot of art for Mattel, he didn't draw any mini comics until New Adventures, I don't think. Captain Have Fun says, "That looks awesome. I'm not going to have Duncan being killed like that, not in my head canon." I agree 100%. Gaz says, "Afternoon." Well, afternoon to yourself. I hope you're having a good one. So then there was this one where they redid one of the old mini comic covers, which in itself is an homage to Frank Frazetta. Let me see if I can find the original version of that mini comic in here. That was when Bruce Timm was drawing a bunch of the mini comics. And Bruce Timm is one of my favorite artists of the mini comics. He is a close second to Alfredo Alcala himself. Alfredo Alcala being like my absolute definitive He-Man artist. When I think of He-Man, that's the version that I'm thinking of. Yeah, see, here it is. So Bruce Timm, when he did this cover, was doing a very direct homage to Frank Frazetta you know. And yeah, I don't see if somebody else, Larry Houston, I guess, was the penciler because it says LH/Bruce Timm. So it looks like it's yeah, Larry Houston was the penciler on this issue, and Bruce Timm was the inker. So that's like Larry Houston being the most prolific artist of the mini comics, and uh, dude had a legendary career. Had his hand in my childhood, like more than you might suspect. He worked on G.I. Joe, he worked on X-Men. Guy's a legend. And he drew more, like I said, he drew more of the mini comics than anybody. So seeing him and Bruce Timm working together, it gives you some really beautiful artwork. I do feel like Houston, out of all the mini comic artists, he was the one who stuck the closest to the filmation models. So again, that is the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe mini comic collection. It was published by Dark Horse. You might still be able to find a copy of it on Amazon. I know I have 2 copies of it. This one is slightly water damaged, unfortunately, just from when my apartment got flooded. So years ago. Let's not get into that again. So, but yeah, check it out on Amazon. It's definitely worth picking up. It's a nice heavy book. It's one of those that's fancy enough. It's actually got its own bookmark built into it. So okay, so let's get back to the figure because I haven't talked about the articulation yet. So let's go ahead and get the accessories off of him, and then we could talk about the articulation. Oh yeah, there's more about the color I wanted to talk about too. So he's got like the same color blue on his wristbands as he has on his helmet and his belt, and the green on this guy, like honestly, like the green that I think of the original Man at Arms as having is kind of the color of like frozen English peas, like that kind of color. That's what I associate that with. And this one is a bit more teal. So my next episode, I've got another Man at Arms figure to open up that I got for cheap off of eBay. This one I only paid like $12 for, and that is the Turtle's a Grayskull version of Man at Arms. So he's got a little bit more of a samurai sort of look. So I think that's going to be interesting to open up. But I do notice that the blue, the green on that one is that same sort of bluish green, but the Turtles version is a little bit darker. So lots of different options for Man at Arms. Uh, Captain Hasfine says thanks. So now the mini comics can be read just like normal size. Yeah, pretty much. It's almost the size of like a regular comic book. It's almost the same dimensions, but it's definitely larger than a regular mini comic here. Since I've got like a standard size graphic novel here, you can see the difference, and it's like maybe about like an inch shorter, and like maybe about like a quarter of an inch more narrow that way. But but yeah, that's probably about as close to the proportions of a regular comic as you could get. So yeah, there's lots of the artists in here that like I said, Bruce Timm when he was first starting out drew a lot of the mini comics. This one I think was actually Mike Sikowski, which Mike Sikowski draws the He-Man characters just like weird, like just does a really weird job with all these He-Man characters. So, oh yeah, and then there's this book and record set, or I think it was book and cassette that Bruce Timm actually painted, and that is some gorgeous artwork. And if you want to check that out, it's on YouTube actually. Somebody made a video of it with the artwork and the audio from the cassette tape. But here's where he draws the transformation. Looks really cool. So but yeah, if you're a fan of He-Man, you gotta have that book. It's just absolutely necessary. All right, so now that I've gone over the paint, you can see there's just hair in the back hanging down. We can go ahead and talk about the articulation. So Man at Arms can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically side to side, rotate the head all the way around. Of course, the arms you rotate all around the shoulder, and they go up about that far. Of course, oops, I split him in half accidentally. He is going to be kind of hindered by the armor. You see it push the armor loose. So if you don't want the armor to come loose, you got to make sure you don't raise that up too high. He's got a single joint of articulation at the elbow, extends about that far, bends in about that far, rotates all the way around. He's got wrists that rotate all the way around and have a horizontal hinge. So they move back and forth like that. Of course, Man-at-Arms rotates all the way around at the waist, and he can kick up about that far. These figures are kind of muscled down a little bit, so the articulation is not as great as say a GI Joe Classified or a McFarlane figure. But it's still like I think pretty good for a He-Man. Definitely better than the '80s ones were. Single joint of articulation at the knee extends about that far, bends about that far, and rotates all the way around. Then we have boot cut, boot rotates all the way around, and then the ankle articulation point down about that far, point up about that far, and then it rotates all the way around. So that is pretty much that as far as the articulation goes. So let me go ahead and put his weapons back on, so I'm ready to take my picture for the thumbnail. And yeah, there's that little bit of, it's not quite square, but there's like a flat piece at the top. So you want to make sure that you have the thumb kind of lined up in such a way where it's not going to bump into that. And then the mace, and he's once again ready to do battle with the Snake Men and not get killed. So, especially not by Clamp Champ. Both those guys deserved better than that. There's a lot of things that I like in the Masters of the Universe Classics continuity, like I said. So don't think I'm trying to hate on it, but that was one aspect of it that I felt like they could have done a better job. I didn't like the way they killed off the sorceress. It's not so much that you kill off one of my favorite characters, like I said. It's that they need to go out like a G. Like I think, like as controversial as it was, the He-Man Revelation cartoon on Netflix. Actually, they when they killed off the sorceress in that, I thought they did a better job with that per se. So that's just my opinion. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this figure. I hope you enjoyed the review. He's definitely a cool figure, definitely worth picking up, especially if you can get him for cheap. I don't think he's going to be anybody's definitive Man-at-Arms, just because of like the color difference of the armor. I kind of feel like that would be something that a lot of people would have a problem getting past that as being their definitive version. But if you just want like a cool variant of them, then this definitely fits the bill as far as that goes. And like I said, if you're like me and you're a big fan of the live action movie, having him in that sort of gray armor does bring to mind his appearance in the live action movie. So that's definitely a good thing in my book. So anyway, that's it for Man-at-Arms. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back next time with a completely different Man-at-Arms. So if you enjoyed this video and you want some more, make sure you like and subscribe. All that fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this figure and the character of Man-at-Arms in general. And what is your favorite version of Man-at-Arms as a figure so far? Captain Have Fun says, I wasn't going to buy this till you said that. Love the movie. Well, again, I'm sorry and you're welcome. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the movie too. Like I know a lot of people got their criticisms of it with it. I would actually agree. I wish that as much of it didn't take place on Earth as I would have liked to see more of Eternia in the movie too. But I'm not somebody who, like I said, I'm a big fan of the early mini comics, and that's like my He-Man. So I kind of felt like when they didn't really do the Prince Adam thing, they kind of took it back to the mini comics. So I actually kind of appreciated that there wasn't a Prince Adam in the movie. That to me actually made more sense. But I can see how somebody might be disappointed at the lack of Prince Adam. It's funny because like as a kid, like I said, I really liked the mini comics and I did enjoy the animated series, but I never really bought into the whole Prince Adam thing when I was a kid. And to me, I never really played it that way. So I always played him where he was always He-Man, like in the mini comics. But as an adult, when I went back and watched the Filmation cartoons, I found that I actually did enjoy most of the episodes that I really liked had to do with Prince Adam, like Prince Adam No More or The Problem with Power. And that was, I think, when I started to see the appeal of the character. Plus, one of the things going back to the Masters Universe Classics continuity that I really liked was they introduced the idea that there had been like several He-Men throughout history, and that the mini comic He-Man and the filmation He-Man were actually two completely different characters. So they both coexisted in the same universe, just at different historical points. So that kind of made me appreciate the filmation version a little bit more, because then it wasn't one where they were kind of like, oh, let's do a new version of He-Man. It was one that was more like, oh well, they both have their place, don't they? And then I could more easily appreciate both of them. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. I've prattled on for long enough. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.